Welcome to Collaborate, the podcast that's reshaping real estate success. Whether you're a new agent striving for your first big win or a seasoned producer ready to break into the top 1%, Collaborate is your gateway to elite strategies, global networks, and industry-changing insights. Each episode delivers actionable advice straight from the top 1% of real estate professionals worldwide. This is where you learn the tools, tactics, and high-level techniques you need to scale your business and unlock financial freedom. Don't just survive, thrive. I'm your host, Trevor Bigg, three-time Icon Award winner with over $100 million in sales volume as a solo agent. And if you haven't been invited to the show yet, get your numbers up because this is a space reserved for the elite. Welcome back to another impactful episode of Collaborate. This is the premier podcast for ambitious agents focused on scaling their business. Today's episode is what I would call rare because today we're discussing topics like team building, high-level recruitment strategies, and how to duplicate success with none other than EXP's very own Connor Steinbrook. This is an agent who founded one of the biggest organizations within EXP Realty, the Wolfpack. He's personally recruited over 3,300 agents into his downline. He was EXP Realty's number 2 agent globally for net growth. This guy is an absolute monster. Connor, thanks for joining us, man.
What's going on, guys? Hope all's well, and looking forward to it. Thanks for having me on the show.
Man, appreciate it. I want to dive right into things. I don't want to waste any time. Year one, how many agents would you say you recruited year one?
So my first year at EXP, I sponsored about 40 people. I think it was give or take 1 or 2. And then that was my personal front line. I attracted that many. And then through the duplication side of the business, we have a 7-tier override growth model. It turned into, I think, 151 agents was what I remember off the top of my head. So we get basically just right around 150 agents at the end of the first year.
So what were you saying? What was your script? What was the strategy? Because there's lots of agents who have been in the game for, 15, 20 years who have no idea how to recruit agents. And yet you've done over 40 the year one. So what was the strategy behind that?
So strategies change over time. At that time, it was so new. Sure. We didn't even have company slide decks, anything like that. My main pitch was going to real estate investors. So I came up in the real estate investment world. Is how I got into real estate. I started wholesaling houses, then flipping, then buying rentals and land owner financing and things like that. Yep. So I was an investor. I had a lot of people reaching out to me about EXP for a couple of years before I actually joined the company. I actually got my license to join EXP just to build the revenue share model. Cool. And so my community and the environment that I was in on the front side before I came in were all real estate investors. So the first thing I went to was my investor friends that had licenses. And I just started showing them the ability to build residual income. And I started showing them a comparison of how the revenue share model worked as compared to building their rental portfolio. And so rental portfolio grows linear where rev share grows exponential. So I was explaining to them, if you want to, create a rental property cash flow, you have to market for the deal, find the deal, close the deal, renovate it, put a tenant in it, finance out, and you may make like $250 to $500 a month. You're going to have back-end management issues and all sorts of things like this. To double that cash flow, you have to do that whole process, same time, same effort, same dollars, same risk to double it once. And so I explained to them how the revenue share model works. I can bring a partner in, and if they go start attracting agents, this is like rental properties attracting rental properties, not being incentive to call a person a house. Yeah. But I explained to them that it's like cash flow attracting cash flow. And then I also showed them that I was going to be able to buy houses from agents in my team, which is what a lot of them have done over the years anyways, working with agents. So first I went to my sphere of influence, started with real estate investors. The next thing I did was I started using my social media. So in 2 different ways, I talked about this in my EXPCon speech. So you have proactive and reactive social media attraction strategies. So reactive is you take time to film a video like we're doing right now ahead of time. He's going to place this video on the internet and you guys may come across this and say, I want to partner. And then you're going to reach out. So that's a reaction strategy, placing content on the internet for people to come across, react to it, to come to you. But there's also proactive strategies, which is you're actually taking your unilateral one-off time to reach out to somebody. So what I was doing was I was going to like LinkedIn and Facebook and well-known platforms. And I came from the investment world. And some of you guys know the term a motivated seller. This is a characteristic or a variable about their situation that increases the likelihood that they're going to sell the house quickly and at a discount. So someone that's in bankruptcy, divorce, or foreclosure. So I was like, I want to find motivated agents, people that would be more likely to come to this company, but also partner with someone like me. So what I was thinking is I was in insurance before, and I was at World Financial Group, which is a very similar model to EXP, but in the insurance space. So I was going on Facebook and Instagram, typing keywords in Keller Williams agents, World Financial Group, Keller Williams agents, PHP, which is like Patrick Bet-David's company that he sold, which is a network marketing override insurance company. So I was finding people that held their license in insurance at a company that was similar to EXP, because if they chose to hold their insurance license there at that type of model, they'd be more likely inclined, if that makes sense a little bit, to hold their license at EXP. So I started reaching out to people that way. Now, proactive attraction gives you the ability to choose who and when. So I can reach out to the number one agent in the world whenever I want to, but your time's expensive. So it's the most expensive strategy. So with your reach outs, you want to go after team leaders, broker owners, influencers, the biggest agents in the marketplace, where the reactive strategy is going to bring more agents to you, but they're usually going to be a little bit newer agents. So I was doing that. And then the other thing I was doing was I was going to local networking events. I was going to as many in-person meetup events in my local market as I could. And I was trying to find events that already had a value for me to go to, meaning I wanted to raise money or learn marketing or learn AI or something like that. So you never lose if you're going for the primary skill set for whatever the meeting's about. So that's the win. And then while you're there, you're trying to build your second and third businesses. So if you're raising money for your investment business, trying to get into conversations to attract agents, not just going and developing relationships. And I was going to little 20 to 50 person meetings quite a bit. And I was trying to find 1 to 3 people each meeting I went to, not press on them and throw up on them, guys. Just be cool, be likable. Just talk to them like you're going to become a friend, and then lead that to a conversation at a lunch or dinner, and then let that rapport building process start. But those are all the main things I was kind of doing right when I was getting off the ground.
Was it Wolfpack right out of the gates, or did you start with something else?
No, actually, I didn't start. So I was actually part of Rob Flick's Team Ninja. Okay. And so there's Team Ninja, and then there's Team Disruptor above me, which was Scott and Tracy Lewis at the time. And then so I was at the beginning building the brand of my partners above me. Now there's kind of this crazy situation in our upline, not to go too much into it.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't able to really build that brand anymore. And what was really going on was this is probably about, I don't know, this is my first year coming in. I was getting crushed by another group in the company that has a strong brand, but is a different animal, if that makes sense. And I was running into them and losing a lot because they had a brand, they had a value proposition, and they had seasoning in the industry, meaning they had relationships and they've been around for 15, 20 years. Yep. And so I said, how am I going to compete against this long term? At the time, there weren't other options. There weren't other companies out there and things like that. EXP was the only show in town. So I was like, I can either sit here and get run over and whine and complain about it, or I can stand up and fight against it and figure out what I'm going to do long term. So my long term vision was I need to create a brand in the company that's going to stand out, that's going to be unique to its own, but also have a message behind it that people can get behind, and that's going to compete against this brand that I think I'm going to compete against for a long time. So I said, if we're going to choose animal names, what animal am I choose? Is it going to be like the elephants, sharks, cobras, whatever? And so in high school, I went to Plano West Senior High here in North Texas. And if you look at Plano West, we were the Wolfpack. And so in sports, we always had this mentality, run together, win together, let's do as a pack. And I was a lone wolf. And so I, kind of got out of all my sports background. And when I got into team building again, which is a lot different than my past because I was a professional poker player and then an investor, that was a solopreneur kind of selfish thing. Now I have a team. So I was like, well, the Wolfpack sounds good because it's a family. We can run and do this together. But also it's a strong animal, very well respected. And then the mentality behind how we'll do it. But that's kind of how I came up with the name. And then what's really crazy is it was like 3.5 years later, we already had thousands of agents. I had no idea. But one of my agents told me that if you look my name up, Connor, in Irish, it stands for lover of wolves, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. Does I don't know what that means, but yeah, it kind of all played out. But yeah, it was basically because I was trying to compete against a brand that I couldn't compete against, needed a brand that stood side by side it, and also had a good messaging point behind it. But that's kind of why I went that direction with the name.
Well, and branding Wolfpack, I think, the name itself instills a level of culture that I think everybody can resonate with, right? Everybody knows the idea behind a Wolfpack, and so just hearing the name resonates a certain level of culture that I think you've absolutely nailed.
Yeah. So like anytime I've created brands in the past, so it's good to have a personal brand for a lot of reasons, but also when you're having collective brands. So for my investment world, the YouTube channel I built that kind of got traction was called Investor Army, an army of people. So I remember when I was getting into YouTube, I was watching a kid that had a channel called with like the Buxton Army, and there's a few other big channels. And they all, the ones at the time that kind of took off, had collective branding names. So like I could have been the Connor Steinbrook team powered by Connor Steinbrook or something like that, which is traditional in the real estate space, or the Steinbrook group. But that's not for everybody. And if you want to build a big business, you want to build something that everybody wants to build. Nobody wants to build you. They want to build them, and they want to build us and we. So if you want to grow a big business, build a collective brand. So Wolfpack's collective, everybody can be a part of it. We're all the Wolfpack. Investor Army, we're all the arm, so I always understood the power of group psychology on how people make decisions. For sure. And so I think about that if you guys are young, how you're going to pick your team. I know it's cool to have your name and your brand and all that stuff, and you can still have it. But I think you're going to build a lot stronger internal culture and buy-in with everybody if they all feel like they're building the same ship that's going the same direction. They're not just building your ship, if that makes sense a little bit.
Well, I've always thought the same thing. I mean, for me personally, it'd be hard to join under a team that's the team is, first name, last name group, or last name group, or first name team. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where, because I feel like at that point, I'm spending a lot of my time and a lot of my energy branding somebody else. Whereas if I'm going to join a team, I'd like to join a team where, it's the Wolfpack, the global group, something that's pretty generic. Whereas I'm not spending all my time and energy branding somebody else's first and last name.
Oh, for sure. It's a lot of like the 70s, 80s, 90s, early 2000 type of mentality in the business. And it's nothing wrong with it, but that's how business used to be done. I think what changed it is the social media revolution, where now everybody's their own reality TV star. So think about like when we didn't even have TiVo, you couldn't even record TV. And then all of a sudden you could record TV, and then technology increased. And then all of a sudden you started seeing reality TV shows, and then you saw personal celebrities. So it used to be just like the mainstream celebrities, athletes, and the big time hitters. They had all the money, they had all the branding, they had all the power behind their brand and all that. So we piggybacked off those brands. But then in the world of social media that we all have access to, that's something we can build with our time and not our dollars. Yep. It truly revolutionized business in general. We can now compete on a small level against the biggest brands, the Amazons, the Walmarts, and all sorts of different things like that, because we can control the messaging, getting it out there. So the ability to take your time into growing something, which is also important if you guys are younger, starting your business and you don't have a lot of money or you're in debt. I was $100,000 in debt before I ever did a real estate deal. And it was because of social media and my work ethic. I didn't have money. It was actually, when I had money, I wasted it. Is when I ran out of money that I had to get in tenfold, and I could trade my time. So you live in a world now that you can trade your time and your work ethic to build a business. But I think that's where a lot of that changed, and just the individuality, and everybody can have their own attention directly to them.
I think I want to touch on what you said. Just when I had money is when I spent it, is when I was poor is when things really got serious. I think that's too true for so many people. A lot of agents, like we were talking about before the show, use what they have as almost a crutch, where they've got everything and then it's gone, right? Where I find that the hungry ones are the creative ones. The ones who are the most hungry are the ones that think outside the box and get shit done.
Yeah. So like when I got in, I started on the investment space, and I really didn't know what I was doing. I was just trying to get my business up and going quickly. So I was dropping like $10,000 on direct mail campaigns, like the first time I'd ever done a mail campaign, stuff like that. And I really didn't understand what I was doing. And I made a lot of mistakes. And then as you start making mistakes and you're going backwards, this causes problem compounding, where one problem turns into more problems. Yep. Stress compounds into higher stress. And then you're starting to lose money and you're freaking out. And so it's when I had a little bit of money that I didn't manage it correctly, because I'm like, okay, I've got this. And this is why you want to be very careful if you guys are borrowing money to build a business off the ground. Yeah. Sometimes we run through it quickly and we don't realize, how many mistakes we're making with it. So let's say you borrowed $100,000 to start your business, or you started your business and you only had $5,000 on your own. You're going to be way more strategic about how you let those $5 or $5,000 leave your hand as compared to the $100,000 that you just borrowed. Even though that $100,000 you're going to have to pay back, or or if it was your own money and you make some bad decisions, you're going to have to start over essentially in life. So when I basically got myself into debt, that the panic picked up and the fear picked up. Yep. And if you guys are living in that kind of state, it's brutal to live in, but it's needed for a lot of you guys. It was very needed for me. I had to go through hell. I had to get my back up against the wall. I had to tread water. For example, like if I threw you into the pool and you're comfortable, you're going to swim as long as you can, but you're eventually going to get out. Even if you thought you swam as long as you could, if I threw you in the ocean off a cruise ship, I guarantee you tread water for longer. So when you're really up against it and the fight or flight mode's there, your brain's going to put you into hyperdrive survival mode, and you're going to do way more than you could if you were comfortable. So it's okay if you guys are struggling right now. Maybe it's exactly what's needed for you, because I had to get myself into debt. I was in debt for like 3 or 4 years in my business, and it was horrible to go through, but in hindsight, it was a blessing. So no matter how bad your situation is right now, guys, you can get out of it, but you got to be willing to fight for it, and also put in the time in, and just know that you can get out there and build a business with your time and you don't need money.
Well, it's very true. And I think the highlight, but there's no way around hard work. I mean, no matter what situation you're in. I know me personally, I've had years where my first year in business, I was blessed. I did 27 transactions, made like $200,000. The following year, second year, I was able to double that, made $400,000. But at the end of the year, the amount of money left over in my bank account never changed. Year one, I made 200 grand. I had 40K and it left over in the bank account. Year number two, I made $400,000. End of the year, I still had 40K in my bank account. Nothing changed. So that's when things really got serious, where I had to really actually pay attention to financially how this business was going.
Oh, for sure. So I do quite a lot of different trainings for our group, but one of them is on financial and capital management. And what I realized a long time after coaching a lot of entrepreneurs in different industries is it's not about how much we're making. We're always after. So you see how he calculates 200,000, 400,000. This is how almost every entrepreneur is. We look at how much we bring in through the front door. So we're always looking at how much is here on the front side. The wealth creation in your business and in your career comes on the back side, which is the back door. How many expenses do we have? So let's say someone did $2 million in revenue. And I asked you and I said, would you want to be that person? Most people would be like, of course. But then I said, but they had $2.5 million last year in expenses.
Yeah.
They're going to be like, oh, so they lost $500,000. So one of the things I see that really holds a lot of young entrepreneurs back is the backside of their life, their expenses. As they start to make 100, 200 grand, what do? Their car, they buy a nicer car, they increase their living, they buy nicer clothes. Instead of getting 1 coffee a day, they get 2 coffees. Instead of getting the 8-ounce steak, they get the 12-ounce steak. But that little bit of money that adds up, it can't compound over time. So what I realized was I wanted to live way below my means in the beginning, and every dollar I was going to invest. And so what I see is the reason why people struggle to hit, $1 million, multi-million-dollar net worth is they keep spending the money they make. They make more, but they spend more. So as you guys make more, invest more. You shouldn't really start spending money on lavish things and the things that you want in life until you build a residual income. So all the money you're making through sales and transactional income activities, you should take it from active to passive. Invest into rental properties while you're selling houses, build your rev share group on the side. And then once you get your revenue share, or your rental income or your residual income stream up to $10,000, $20,000 a month, spend it on whatever you want, because if it goes away, you have more coming in. But let's say you built up like 100, 200K in your bank account, and then that goes away. Now you're starting over from zero. So the first 100,000 you've heard is the hardest part of business, because once you get to 100, it's enough money that can start compounding investing in. Yep. But be careful with what you're spending your money on, guys. That's what holds a lot of people back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I want to touch on duplication for a second. I know that the concept of duplication is pretty central to your approach. How do you set up systems to help agents replicate your success?
Well, proximity, monkey see, monkey do. You want to mentor and apprentice people one-on-one. So there's a specific agent in my organization that he was an immigrant over here, sharp individual, good-looking guy, everything going for him. But he had one really strong limiting belief, which was his accent. So he did have a strong accent, and it really affected him to where he didn't feel like comfortable talking to people over the phone or hopping on Zoom. So I had to look at my partner and I say, well, what is the best approach that I can help my partner with? And so he had maybe added 4 or 5 agents and kind of gave up on the business. And so I made a big trip to the Northeast. I had a handful of agents up there. I had like 1 agent in 4 or 5 markets, and I made a month up there. I spent a few days with each one. And so what I did was I took my partner, I showed him exactly what I was doing in front of him. So what we were doing is we were sponsoring little local networking events. We were renting booths for like maybe $200 for the event. We were bringing the big flat screen TV up with the cloud-based metaverse that we have at EXP. And we had a little loop running on the back, which is kind of like attracting bees to honey type of stuff. It's just to catch people's attention. And then he was watching as people come up to the booth. I'd speak to them for a little bit. I get their business information. I get their cards. I get their emails. And then what I was doing is I'd show them that when I get back, I'd try to line up a call to get them to lunch or dinner. And then we go to lunch or dinner. And then that would lead to me giving him the presentation. So he watched me meet an agent at the event, get their information, get to the conversation next, lead to the EXP Explain presentation. And then I remember vividly, he was sitting on his bed watching me do the presentation in his room. And by the end of the presentation, the agent goes, "This is a no-brainer, I'm in." And I was like, "Cool, we'll send you a link." After the call, I look over at him. He's like, "That's all you do?" And I said, "Over and over and over and over." And after that moment, because he saw the process start to finish, he saw that it actually was done that way and it worked that way. He went out there and he's now got over 250 agents, and that's all he did. He kept replicating that process. Now, this is important understanding when it comes to leadership and duplication, guys. You can tell people to do something or you can show them to do it. If I just tell people to do something, I can sit on a mastermind call. I can tell them, this is step 1, go get a booth. Step 2, put it, I can tell them the exact thing to do, but him watching me do it was the difference, which, so this is super important, guys. When you know things work, bring your partners along with you. Let them shadow you to your open houses. Let them see. So the other side of the planet, the apprenticeship process is how most education is done from generation to generation. Here in the US, we do go through a different type of education process with traditional schooling. But the first thing is, I would say, if you guys have partners and you want them to have success doing the things you're doing, bring them along with you, do it with them, hop on the calls with them, show them. But you can teach people through like mastermind calls and tell them, but that's kind of like, if like you're playing football, practicing on like a Thursday, even though you're playing full tackle, it's not the same as when you're in the game on Sunday and you're actually trying to win a football game. It's a little bit different, but duplication is helping the principle of duplication is finding a pattern of the past that works for you, meaning something that you've done that's replicatable, and then trading that knowledge, wisdom, or skill set to someone in the present that they can take and recreate that in their future. So we're finding patterns that work and helping our partners adopt those patterns and apply those patterns till they start working for them, and then teaching them how to do that for their agents. So it's generational knowledge, essentially, if you want to think of that we're passing through our organization, just like a family line passing the right information down through their grandparents to parents to children.
And I think that's an important thing to touch on. You said teaching agents how to do it. I think many agents are focused on attracting agents, and that's only step one, right? You explained it the best in Miami there, but attracting agents is only step one. But if you spend all your time attracting agents, then you might as well stay in the rat race. You know what I mean? You're not doing anything to get yourself to that next level of passive income. The next two levels are when you really start to make money, and that's training agents how to attract agents, and then training agents how to train agents to attract agents. Dive into that a little bit.
Yeah. No, you got it right there. That's good. So in order to build something, you have to have a vision in your mind and see it in your mind first.
Yep.
And so I really try to help people see the short to long-term pattern. So for example, like I give it like a painting, like the Mona Lisa. If you're going to paint the Mona Lisa, it doesn't just come up on the wall. The visual picture had to be seen in the mind first and then painted on the wall, if that makes sense a little bit. So the business that you're building, you need to see where it's going. And so the first level I teach agents is the first level of the business is you personally have to start your business. We have a 7-tier growth model, EXP. Your first tier is the tier that you build, and tiers 2 through 7 are the tiers your partners build. So if your partners are building 2 or 6 out of 7 tiers, that's the most important part of your business, but you have to start your business. So that's when you learn your skill sets to attract agents. And then once you know how to do that, that's level 2. You need to take the skill sets that you know how to attract agents and teach those skill sets to your partners. So let's say you went out there, sponsored 5, 10, 15, 20 people. How do you help your partners replicate that process that you did? And you're going to do it with them. That's level 2. Now your agents are out there sponsoring agents, but the same thing's going to happen that they now know how to sponsor agents, but their incoming agents don't know how to do it. So now you need to teach your partners to do what you just did for them, which is you taught them how to attract agents. Now you're going to teach them how to teach their agents how to attract agents. And this is when you start to build up a duplication system. Now you have leaders in your business that are fully self-sufficient where they can build a business on their own. And the goal is to have 3 full-time earners in a succession line. So you have a downline. Once you have 3 people, let's say I sponsor John sponsors Susan sponsors Erica.
Yep.
Once Erica's making full-time income, meaning you have 3 leaders in a succession line where they're all making full-time income, that business is built. Literally, they're going to take it and run with it. Now, you still can be involved and help them, and you want to, but that's going to go to probably 1,000-person team because you have 3 people that understand what they're doing, mastermind, sharing information. They can help raise that tribe and that family. And then you really want to, if you want to build an unbreakable business, is to have, I call it building like a stool. What does a stool have? 3 legs. So once you have 3 downlines that have 3 succession lines of 3 full-time earners, that's a stool that can stand on itself. And that business is going to build, those legs are going to build out, and it's going to be able to support anything it runs into eventually long-term, essentially.
Yeah, for sure, man. I think that people's biggest holdback from really growing or scaling their business, from what I've seen anyways, is the fear of maintaining consistency. They fear that once they grow to a certain level, there's just no way that they're going to be able to maintain the same level of quality that they've been delivering to this smaller group of people. How do you ensure that the Wolfpack's value and quality standards remain strong as the team grows?
That's a good question. I would say, I don't know if it's a fear. I guess it's just an awareness that that's actually what's going to happen.
Yep.
Anything that you scale, you're going to lose the in-person, that close touch in the beginning. This is with anything. There's nothing that's scalable that you can have that same heart, that same culture when the seed was small and that nucleus was small. And it's just because of sheer volume. So like when my business was growing, I pretty much knew everybody into like the first 200 to 300 people. Like I knew their faces. I could tell you who they were if I came into an event, but then it started growing so big. I started having people on my 4th and 5th tier come in through friends and family. So you're never going to be able to control something to that level. So I would just say, first off, just know that's normal and natural.
Yeah.
That if it gets to a point where it's big enough that it's outside your control and you're outside your ability to contain that same culture, it's big enough anyways that it's not going to matter at that point, if that kind of makes sense. But you want to train your leaders to do the best you can behind you. So inside my organization, we have a growth rate on a macro level, meaning the entire group's growing at X rate. But to make that macro collective aggregate growth rate, it's combined between a lot of smaller groups, different groups building inside the team, 50-person groups, 200-person groups, 400-person groups, and things like that. So some of my teams this year, and just same thing as the EXP as a whole, why we're in a sideways pattern, is yes, some teams are still growing exponentially. Some teams are still growing on a linear growth rate. Some teams are barely growing. Some are flatlined. Some are losing a few agents per year. Some are losing quite a few, and some are actually falling apart and going backwards.
Yep.
So you have all these different growth patterns collectively combined across one to create what looks like a global growth, an actual growth rate. So the reason for that is your parents can't raise you forever. You can use your upline's value proposition brand, but you have to build your own business. So inside the Wolfpack, there's all sorts of great different leaders. They all have different value propositions. Some of them are investors in that background. Some of them are AI experts. Some of them are social media experts. Some of them are production experts. So they all offer different things to different agents, and they run their groups a little bit differently. And the one thing you want to make sure to do as a leader is to not step on other people's toes. I'm not here to micromanage people. I'm not here to run their businesses directly for them. I'm not their boss or their broker. I'm their partner, hopefully their friend. And so, yeah, you're going to have different groups that do different things, and you're going to also have some cross. So even we have agents in our group taking agents and fighting for agents within the group Wolfpack, just like EXP agents fight other groups for agents, and just like EXP is fighting other industry companies. But I would say just do the best you can, and that's all you can do. But the more you start to get the right mindset, the right strategies, the right philosophies through your organization and the right leaders early on, the easier it is to pass those generational traits down. It's harder when they come in and kind of all go off in their own direction, but it's really something you can't control. Unfortunately, you're going to have breakdowns of systems. And so like even now we have people coming in that don't know how to get to mastermind calls and can't really find all the tools and resources. And that's just part of it. It's like that video. I don't know what that game is when you're little. It's called like telephone or something. When you start in a circle and you whisper like a message into one person's, you say a sentence and then it goes to the next person. They're trading it word of mouth. By the time it gets to the last person, it's a completely different message.
For sure.
And it's just a good understanding of how big business gets built. But that's just natural, normal. I wouldn't be concerned about it. Just do the best you can and let the cards fall.
What would you say then? The best way to mitigate that would be just high level training?
Yeah. And then also just studying your back office. So like if I see people struggling where they're now losing a lot of agents, or I know that there's a lot of tension in that organization, I'm going to reach down and try to figure out what's going on and try to help them through that. But, as you start to grow a bigger business, the agents coming behind you want to be just like you. So we all want to have the team like our upline and be like our upline. But as they start to get to, usually around 50, 75, 100 agents, this is when they start to become like a high schooler or going into college. They see themselves as their own adult, their own leader. They want to run their own thing. Now they're still going to share the benefits from the upline, but this is when they really start to kind of spread their wings and build their own personal value proposition. But yeah.
So after building an international team, because you've got agents all around the globe now, right? You've got them in almost every country EXP's in, right?
Yeah, we're in either like 19, maybe now 20 countries. I'd have to go back and check, but I think we're at least in 19.
That's incredible, man. So what do you think are the 3 non-negotiable habits or skills that every effective team leader should develop?
The first one would be mental resiliency. By far is like the most important one. You're going to deal with incredible adversity as far as like just people whining and complaining, things not falling apart, agents leaving, choosing different groups and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think the number one trait in business in general and entrepreneurship is mental resiliency. So there's 2 different sides of the mind. You have the knowledge and wisdom and education side of it, which is the accumulation of information. But then when you apply this, which is the implementation side in the marketplace, it's never going to go right. And so that's when you get to see who's going to make it, when everybody's going to have struggles and adversities, but it's the ones that push through it. So first is the resiliency side. The second would be the consistency side. Consistency builds certainty, and certainty builds confidence and mitigates and minimizes fear. And if you're an inconsistent leader, meaning let's say you're running a mastermind call and you're running like 2 a week, and all of a sudden you're going for 3 weeks and all of a sudden 2 weeks off and you're not showing up on the calls or you miss a call. When people don't have confidence that you're fully convicted and going to be there all the time, as for example, like I haven't missed a mastermind call that people haven't known in like almost 7 years. And if I'm going to miss it, I let people know way in advance. So they don't have to guess on Monday if they show up at 10, if Connor's going to be there or not. If you have to guess, are your partners serious or not? So let's say someone's, hey, come on in this opportunity. It's going to change your life. And then they get you an opportunity and they're running hard for like 2 weeks. And all of a sudden you see them starting like a hair salon or going into like a different industry. You're like, okay, well, how convicted is this person on their belief system? So the second thing for duplication and just any business is massive consistency, because that consistency is seen and felt and it breeds consistency behind you. So when you're showing up every day, shows you're important. This is important to you. And when people see it's important to you, it's also easier for them to see it's important for them. But if they don't believe that the leader, this is important for them, and this is what happens a lot of times when bigger leaders get to where they're making $500,000, sometimes even less, they start to take more time on travel, vacation, and they're living their life. And that's why they built the business. But it's called checking out. And sometimes the upcoming leaders see that they're checking out and it makes them want to check out. So you got to be resilient, you got to stay consistent. And then I would say patience is another one.
Yeah.
So, you have to be what's called I call it aggressive patience, meaning everything takes way longer in life to build. Be patient to let it happen, but be aggressive on your daily work ethic, meaning show up and work as hard as you can every day, but be patient to let things happen over time. And I think we get super frustrated with an entitlement to success that we think things should happen faster than they could or should or have been, I guess. But the reality is I had to have a conversation with myself at one point saying, if I don't have the result that I'm seeking, then I'm not actually done enough to actually have it. So if you guys don't have $1 million in your bank account, you've actually not done what it takes to have it. So no matter how much you think you've done, no matter how many books you've read, no matter how many times you've shown up, and you haven't done enough yet. So don't put your own metric on what it takes to get there. Let the world tell you that, and just show up every day and work hard until it happens. But those are some of the main things that I see, that if you don't have those traits in you, you're going to struggle in business, especially a long-term business or a residual income business. It takes a lot of effort on the front side where you're not having a return until later on the backside.
I'd say those three things are probably the most consistent things that you see amongst the top 1% of agents: the high level of resiliency, consistency, and then an extremely high level of patience. Because if there's one thing I know about success, is that it's going to be a lot harder than you think, and it's going to take a lot longer than you first thought.
Oh, for sure. Every single one. And then I'd add another one on there, which is skill set acquisition, meaning can you become more valuable to the marketplace? So in an attraction-based business, what attracts is being an attractive person, your personality. Do you deliver yourself with confidence? Do people believe that if they follow you into an opportunity that you're not going to just give up and quit? So you're selling yourself, for one. And the way that we increase our value to the marketplace is we increase our skill sets. So how do you increase your skill sets? Increase your value. If you speak one language, now speak two. Learn how to speak Spanish. If you read at this speed, take a speed reading course, now you can read faster. If you didn't know how to do social media, learn how to do social media, learn how to do AI. So at one point, I just kind of video games like a lot of us when we were little. And it really hit hard with me. I think I was listening to probably like a Jim Rohn audio or something like that through personal growth, which changed my life, personal education, self-growth. And I saw myself as a video game character from that point going forward, which is how do I increase my strength? So think of like a Super Mario Brother or like Zelda or something like that, where you're getting a special potion or you're getting a new weapon to take into the battle. This would be you're acquiring a new skill set. So as you increase your value, you're more valuable to the marketplace and more people want to come to you. And so your replacement value dictates your income. So if you're easily able to be replaced, meaning everybody can do what you're doing, your income is going to be low. But if your skill sets are high, meaning you speak 6 languages and you have all these other skill sets, your replacement value, it's very difficult to replace you. So the harder it is to replace you, the higher your income will be just naturally because of it. So start thinking, do I need to work on my communication skill sets? Do I need to work on raising money? Do I need to work on social media? And over time, over a 2, 3, 5, 7-year window, just constantly skill stack, add one skill here, add one skill there, and eventually you become the person that can hold success and you will become successful.
For sure. I just correlates right to it. Alex Hormozy said in a podcast just the other day that sales is not a numbers game. Sales is a game of skill. The one with the most skill will get the most numbers. That just is what it is.
Yeah. And so I would really focus heavily. So there's a book that changed my life. So like when I was at rock bottom, well, first it wasn't a book. I came across Napoleon Hill's black and white recordings of his 17 principles of success. I still have them on my wall right here in front of me. And that led me to Think and Grow Rich. And what Think and Grow Rich let me do is I was a very negative person. I was always whining, complaining, blaming others and blaming God, blaming government, blaming my parents, blaming the bird, the air, whatever I could blame. Yep. And at one moment I realized the reason why I'm here in life is not because of things that are happening around me or to me. It's because I allowed myself to get here by my thought processes, my incorrect thinking, and my decisions. And so at one point I just realized I need to change my thinking. And at that moment before that, I didn't even think that I need to work on my thinking because I didn't think I had a thinking issue. Yep. And so the main thing is you need to be aware of your thoughts on a daily basis. The things that we tell ourselves we'll actually believe. And so I was telling myself all the wrong thoughts and just convincing myself I couldn't do things. And then one day I just said, I'm going to reverse every thought process I catch when I hear myself having a negative thought and create affirmations around it. So there's very simple things like a canvas. I can't, the things like that. That was kind of how it started for me. But I would urge you guys to go down some of the mentors I followed that changed my life were like Jim Rohn, Bob Proctor, Les Brown, Earl Nightingale, Napoleon Hill, Zig Ziglar, even the modern ones, Alex Hormozy, Ed Mylett, PBDs, Brian Carruthers, so find people that are doing what you want to do
for sure
and study them aggressively to see how they got to where they got to. So if you want to be a tennis player, find the most successful tennis people in the world. If you want to be wealthy, read the biographies of the wealthiest people in the world and see their stories, how they got there.
Yeah, almost like I don't like to use the term fake it till you make it. I like to use the term learn to do by doing. Just get out there, see what the other people are doing and do it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also like the main thing that creates success is you have to have a strong personal self-image. If you don't believe in yourself and you don't respect yourself, when adversity kicks in, you're not going to push through. But what builds self-esteem is when adversity kicks in is you consciously choose to push through. You say, I know this is going to suck and I'm going to do it anyways. I know it's going to suck to get up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym, but I'm going to show up anyways. And as you do the things that you need to do to get to your results versus the things that you want to do, the want would be to sleep in. The need is to get up to hit your goals to go to the gym. Every time you go with the need over a want, you're building and reinforcing your self-image. So find the difficult things, guys. You don't go to the gym to hide from the weight bench. You go to find the problem. You go to find the resistance. You go to find what you're going to use to build your body. And so I think people are so fixated on trying to find the path of least resistance and the easiest path up. I'd say flip your mindset, get hurt a little bit, find the difficulty side of the world, find the problems, face the adversity, go through it, build your strength beyond it, and then take that strength to the future, which is going to give you the results doing tougher things. Because to get to the level of success that a lot of people want to get to, if they can't handle the problems, and I know they can't see my hands here at the bottom side that are this big, they're never going to handle the problems that are like this big at the top. Yep. So it's a process of building your mental fortitude and skill sets over time, just like you build your body. You don't go from 100 pounds to benching 300 pounds overnight. You went from 100 to 110 to 120 to 130 to 140. And that's the same thing. Your body and your mind and your skill sets build the same way. And so does your business. It grows over time slowly.
Absolutely. The success you're looking for is behind the hard work you're avoiding. It's another one I heard the other day.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And as we wrap things up here, man, just one thing I want to touch on before we end things. What do you think is the biggest factor that differentiates the most successful real estate organizations from the rest?
That's a good question.
Thank you.
A lot of things go in. I'd say number one would be total aggregate output, meaning the total hours worked in a business. So you could have 1,000 agents, 3 different 1,000-person teams, and 1,000-person team works like 5 hours each. One works 10, one works 20. So output is crucial. And then skill sets plus output, meaning what is the overall average skill set or understanding of the business level? Let's say some are A class, B class, C class. Well, the more of those thousands that are having higher skill sets. So it's a combination of total hours worked plus the skill sets of those hours worked, because someone with a higher skill set is going to get more out of each hour. And then your ability to replicate those people that are doing these, that are having the right skill sets, they're also having high work ethic. So you have to have both the ability to achieve something with the time that you're putting in. And then I would say that also having a strong support system and a culture where people are closely aligned together, because it's harder, especially in a business model like ours. It's much easier to quit a business opportunity than it is to quit a friend and a partner that you truly know is willing to sacrifice and struggle with you. So getting out there and the more people in your organization that are doing it with the genuine mindset and heart that this is a collective journey that we're going together. We're going to fight the monsters and dragons together. No matter what happens, we're going to run together and stick together. The culture that you build on the inside is going to be also seen on the outside. So it's going to help you attract more people that want to be a part of what they're seeing from the outside, but it's also going to retain more people inside the business, because when adversity kicks in, people don't give up. And when they do start to give up, the other partners reach down and say, I won't let you give up. Come back in and let's run again.
There it is, guys. The $1 billion mindset. Jesus. Thank you, Connor. Thanks so much for sharing your expertise and insights and on building a top performing team. It's been inspiring to hear about the Wolfpack's journey and the impact you're making on the real estate industry, man. If I'm a listener at home, I'm in the office, I'm at the gym, stuck in traffic, and I wanted to learn more about the Wolfpack and what you guys have to offer, what would be the best way for someone to get in contact with you?
The best way to reach me is probably just to go to my Instagram and send me like a direct message. I haven't been as active as I should be probably and haven't passed on social media just because I've been doing a lot of other stuff. But I do have a couple of YouTube channels out there. But if you want to get in contact with me, just follow me on Instagram. And then if I can ever help any way for you or your group or anything like that, or any of you guys listen, I'm pretty cool. I want to help you guys. I want to help the company. So if I can ever help, just reach up and let me know. I'd be glad to do so. But yeah, that's the best way to get me. It's just shoot me a message on IG.
I think that's fantastic. If anybody out there has any questions on the Wolfpack, Connor Steinbrook himself, get a hold of him. Instagram's the best way. He will respond, I promise. Thanks for joining us on another extremely valuable episode, guys. Don't forget, this is where the top 1% are delivering actionable steps that you can apply to your business today. Join us next time for more invaluable conversations with today's industry leaders.
Thanks for tuning in to Collaborate, where we're not just talking about success, we're building it. If you found value in today's episode, make sure to subscribe and never miss out on the insights that could take your real estate career to the next level. And remember, this is a space for the elite. If you're ready to level up and become part of a global network of top performing agents, join us at the Global Group for exclusive tools, resources, and opportunities to collaborate with the best in the business. I'm Trevor Bigg, and remember, if you haven't been invited to this show yet, you need to grind harder, hustle smarter, and get those numbers up, because this is a space reserved for the elite.